What if the biggest mistake of your life became the miracle you never imagined? This is the story of a struggling single mother who in one desperate night sent a text message to who she thought was her church fellowship leader. But it ended up in the inbox of Aliko Dangote, the richest man in Nigeria. And what happened next changed her life forever. Now let's dive into how it all began. Amarachi Peters had never planned to be a single mother. No woman does. Her life had once been full of dreams, NYSC certificate in her bag, ambition in her spirit. But 2 years after service, those dreams were buried beneath bills, rejection emails and heartbreak. She was 29, jobless, renting a one-room apartment in Ikotun, raising a 3-year-old boy, Toby, whose father left before he ever said his first word. That night, Amarachi was exhausted. She hadn't eaten all day. Her son was coughing, shivering with fever. She sat beside him on their thin mattress, whispering silent prayers as his small body curled close to hers. It was already past 11:30 p.m. She'd tried everything, at friends, neighbors, her aunt who always said, "I'm praying for you." She opened her contacts, found Pastor Daniel, fellowship, and typed a message with trembling fingers. "Sir, I know it's late. I'm very sorry. Please, my rent is due and my son is very sick. I have nowhere else to turn. I'm not begging for much, just 42,000 to cover the clinic and part of the rent. God bless you, sir, please." She hit send. The message delivered instantly, but as her eyes scanned the screen again, she noticed the name. It didn't say Pastor Daniel. It said Aliko D. She blinked. What? Her breath caught. Hands trembling. She scrolled up. Years ago, someone had joked during NYSC camp that they saved billionaires, numbers in their phones for motivation. Amarachi remembered she had done the same thing as a joke, but she had never deleted it. She had just sent a desperate plea for help to Aliko Dangote. No, she whispered. God, no. She typed fast. Please, sir, wrong number. Kindly ignore. I'm so sorry. But her heart was racing. What if he blocked her? Or reported her? Or worse, what if he read it and thought she was trying to scam him? She stared at the phone, willing it to buzz with a reply. Nothing. Her heart pounded harder than the rain outside. She didn't sleep that night. Morning came slowly. The power had gone out again during the night. Her back ached from sleeping upright against the wall. Toby was still warm to the touch. His fever hadn't broken. She knew she couldn't delay. He needed medication, maybe even a drip. She stood, changed into the only decent blouse she had, and prepared to carry him to the small pharmacy clinic near the main road. As she reached for her bag, her phone buzzed. She looked down. Unknown number. Her heart skipped. She opened the message. Send me your account number. She froze. The room seemed to spin around her. Her chest tightened. For a moment she couldn't breathe. She stared at the screen for a full minute before replying. Sir, please, is this really who I think it is? No reply. Her fingers hovered over the keypad. Should she send the number? Was it safe? What if someone was trying to scam her now? Then another message came in. 100,000 naira sent. Take care of your son. Don't give up. She stared. Tears welled up in her eyes. Her lips parted. She dropped the phone and grabbed it again. Opened her bank app. There it was. 100,000 naira credit, Aliko D. She screamed, fell to her knees, wrapped her arms around her son and wept. It wasn't a scam. It wasn't a joke. It was real. She kissed Tobe's forehead and held him like he was the most precious thing on earth. She had no idea. Her life was only beginning to change. The morning passed in a blur. Amarachi rushed to the pharmacy. With Tobe, he was given an injection and placed on a drip. They stayed at the clinic till midday. For the first time in weeks, she exhaled without pain. The nurse gave her a soft look. He'll be fine, she said. Thank you, Amarachi whispered. When they got back home, she fed him pap and laid him down gently to sleep. Then she sat by the edge of the mattress, the weight of what had happened slowly catching up with her. Was that it? Was he gone now? A mysterious angel who sent money and vanished forever? Her phone buzzed again. Unknown number. She picked it up cautiously. The voice that came through was deep, warm, and unmistakably Nigerian. Good afternoon. Am I speaking with Amarachi Peters? She froze. Yes, speaking. This is Aliko Dangote. Time stopped. Her throat went dry. Her lips couldn't form words. For a second, she thought her heart had stopped beating. Please relax, he said gently. I just wanted to make sure you received the money, and that your son is okay. Yes, sir, she finally whispered. I don't even know how to say thank you. You already did by loving your son the way you do. She could barely believe this was real. Tell me something, Amarachi. Why did you message me? Was it really by mistake? Her voice shook. It was, sir. I meant to text my church fellowship leader. Your number. I saved it during NYSC. I was desperate. I didn't check properly. He chuckled lightly. Sometimes desperation opens divine doors. She wiped tears from her eyes. You've saved me, sir. Honestly, I was breaking. Then let's build again, one step at a time. Silence. Then he said, Can I call you again tomorrow? Amarachi could barely say yes. When the call ended, she sat still for a long time. The richest man in Nigeria had just spoken to her, not like she was nothing, but like she mattered, like she was seen. That night, Amarachi could barely sleep. Her body was tired, but her mind kept replaying the conversation. She kept thinking, what if I had never sent that message? What if I had given up that night? What if this is just the beginning? The next day, she cleaned her small room like it was Buckingham Palace. She even ironed the only dress she had that didn't have a missing button. She knew he couldn't see her. It was a phone call, but it was about how she felt. She wanted to stand taller. At 10 a.m. he called again. They talked about her life, her dreams, how she had studied business, admin, how she used to design clothes during her university days to survive. You're a designer? He asked. Used to be, she said. No machine anymore. Had to sell it. If you had one again, would you go back to it? She smiled. Every day. Silence. Then he said something that took her breath away. Expect a package tomorrow. You'll need space in your room. Sir, you'll see. The next day, a white Hilux parked outside her compound. Two men in black t-shirts carried in a brand new sewing machine, a bag full of quality fabrics, a brown envelope with 250,000 naira cash, and a handwritten note, Build again. A.D. Amarachi wept, not just out of gratitude, but because for the first time in a very long time, she felt chosen. She stepped out to buy groceries for the house. On her way, she stopped in front of a mirror outside a tailor's kiosk. For the first time in months, she looked herself in the eyes and didn't see failure. She saw fire. She saw potential. She saw a woman reborn. The whirring sound of the new sewing machine was like music. Amarachi hadn't felt this alive in years. Her fingers danced over the fabric like they remembered every curve and crease from her. University days. Designing clothes had once been a dream, a way to survive. But now it felt like destiny calling her back. She began sewing for neighbors. They were shocked to see her come back to life. So quickly, especially with premium Ankara fabrics. Word spread fast. People whispered, that girl that suffered alone. She's doing magic now, oh. But Amarachi didn't let it get to her head. She worked humbly, always remembering the night she nearly gave up. Her room was still small, her bed still hard, but her spirit, it was glowing. Every evening she spoke with him. Yes, him, Aliko. They talked like old friends, not about money but life. Childhood memories, parenting, the silent pain of starting again. She had no idea how a man so powerful could speak so gently or listen so deeply. One night he asked, Amarachi, what's your dream now? She paused. No one had asked her that in years. I want to design for big women, women like me. Strong, full, not ashamed of their curves or scars. I want to open a fashion hub, not just a shop, but a space where women like me can grow too. There was silence on the other end. Then he said softly, then that's exactly what you'll do. Weeks passed. What began as whispers soon became noise. Amarachi was no longer just the struggling mother in the compound. She was now the young woman who got blessed by Dangote. People asked her for interviews. A local women's business club invited her to speak at a small event. Me, she laughed nervously. Yes, the woman replied. Your story gives people hope. The day of the event, Amarachi dressed in her own bold Ankara design, colorful, strong and full of life. She hadn't spoken in front of a crowd since NYSC camp. Her hands trembled slightly as she held the mic, but when she opened her mouth, she found her voice. She told them the truth, about being abandoned, about losing herself, about a mistaken text, and a miracle. The women applauded with tears in their eyes. One woman whispered, "You're our own Cinderella." Amarachi smiled. That night, she got a call from him again. "You made me proud today," he said. "You stood tall." She blushed like a teenager. "Thank you, sir." Success has a scent, and it doesn't always attract sweetness. By the fourth week of steady income and local recognition, the mood in Amarachi's compound began to shift. Her success started to provoke bitterness. It wasn't loud at first, just a tone, a fake smile, a sarcastic comment about her clothes. One afternoon, she heard a neighbor say loudly to another, "Some people think they've arrived because rich men are now sending them sewing machines." Laughter. Amarachi paused by the corridor but said nothing. She learned that silence often speaks louder than defense. But the whispers grew. Another time, she overheard a different tenant say, "Better check Wello. All these sugar daddy blessings come with receipt." It hurt, not because it was true. It wasn't, but because she had fought with blood and tears to protect her dignity, to protect her son. What they didn't know was that she had turned down other men before, men who offered help only if she gave her body. She refused every time, even in hunger. And now, when someone had helped her out of pure kindness, the world twisted it. She kept her head down, worked harder, but the shadows were creeping in. It was a Saturday morning. Amarachi went to the central market to buy more fabric for a client. The sun was hot, the crowd thick. She balanced her bag on one arm and a roll of fabric in the other. Suddenly a small boy ran past and knocked her bag from her hand. The contents spilled across the ground. "Oh no," she gasped, crouching to pick them up. A hand appeared beside hers. "Let me help you," a deep voice said. She looked up. He was tall, clean-shaven, with a calm presence. A simple t-shirt, no bling, just a quiet confidence. "Thank you," she said, a little flustered. He helped her gather everything and placed her bag in her arms. "I've seen you here before," he said. She blinked. "Really?" He smiled. "You buy from Madame Chica often." "I own the cold room beside hers." Realization dawned. "Oh, you're the one that sells frozen chicken?" He nodded. "Name's Ikena, Amarachi." A quiet moment passed. The market buzzed around them. He looked at her again. "You've been through a lot, but it hasn't broken you." She wasn't sure what to say. Then he added gently, "I'd like to get to know you better." "If that's okay." She hesitated. Not because she wasn't interested, but because for the first time, someone saw her not as a charity case, not as a single mother, not as a pity project. Just her. Toby, her son, was doing better now. His cheeks were fuller. He laughed more often, especially when Amarachi tickled his ribs during bedtime. But children hear more than we think. One evening after returning from the market, Amarachi found Toby sitting quietly by the window. "Toby, what's wrong?" she asked. He didn't speak immediately. Then he mumbled, "Mummy, are you a bad woman?" Her heart cracked. "Why would you say that?" He looked up at her, confused. "Auntie Ngozi said you're using evil money. She told Chica that rich men don't give things for free." Amarachi swallowed the lump in her throat. She crouched down, holding his small shoulders. "Listen to me, my love. You know how we pray together every morning? And how we thank God for all we have?" He nodded. "That is what brought us help. Not evil, not lies, just grace." Toby looked unsure, but slowly nodded. That night she cried after putting him to bed. Not because of the gossip, but because her son had heard it and believed it for a moment. What else would the world try to take from her? She made up her mind that night. No one would mess with her son's heart again. If she had to move out of that compound and start afresh elsewhere, she would. Her dignity and Tobe's peace were not up for negotiation. Ikena started showing up more often, but not in an overwhelming way. He never forced conversation. He never came uninvited. He simply showed up, where he said he would, like a man who understood the power of presence. One afternoon, he helped her carry bulk fabrics from the market to her place. Another time, he fixed the leaking tap in her backyard without being asked. Then one Saturday, he brought over suya and 2 bottles of malt. "No occasion?" Amarachi asked, smiling. "Does peace need an occasion?" He replied with a shrug. They sat together on a wooden bench in front of his cold room. He asked her about fashion, and she surprised herself by opening up about the style she wanted to try, and the types of body shapes often ignored in the industry. "I don't want to just sew," she said. "I want women to feel seen." He nodded, genuinely interested. "You know," he said, "when I started this cold room, some people said I was too gentle for business, that I'd fail because I don't shout at customers like others." "And did you fail?" she asked. He smiled. "What do you think?" They both laughed. There was something calm about him. Unlike other men who tried to impress her with loudness or pity, Ikenna respected her space. He liked her, that was clear, but he was patient. He didn't try to rescue her. He simply stood beside her, letting her be the hero of her own story. And for the first time since her son's father left her alone and pregnant, she realized something. There were still good men in the world. Or was she concluding too soon? One afternoon, as Amarachi was adjusting the hem of a client's dress, a delivery man arrived at her gate. "For Madame Amarachi," he said, handing her a small cream envelope sealed with a golden emblem. She opened it slowly, confused. Her eyes widened as she read, "You are cordially invited as a guest panelist at the Women in Business Initiative Gala, sponsored by the Dangote Foundation." She blinked, reread it, sat down. "Guest panelist?" She thought it was a mistake. She picked up her phone and dialed the number on the card. A warm female voice answered. "Is this real?" The woman laughed gently. "Oh yes, ma'am. Mr. Aliko himself recommended you. You're one of our stories of hope. We want you to inspire others." Toby was peeking at her from the door. "Mummy, what is it?" She pulled him into a hug. "It's good news, my son. It's very, very good news." For days she barely slept. She designed a new outfit for herself, bold, elegant, proudly African. And when she stood before the mirror on the day of the event, she didn't see the girl whose boyfriend ran away. She didn't see the tenant everyone gossiped about. She saw a woman reborn, and as she stepped into that hall with marble floors, surrounded by women in lace and luxury, she didn't feel out of place. She felt right where she belonged. But what came next was unexpected. It was the lies they told. It started as a whisper. Then it grew louder and louder until it echoed like thunder. One morning, while returning from the women's gala event, Amarachi's phone began to buzz uncontrollably. She checked it. A friend had forwarded a WhatsApp broadcast message. "See the girl using Dangote's money to form fashion designer. Single mother turned side chick to billionaire. May God protect our husbands." Below the message was her photo. From the event, cropped cruelly beside a picture of Aliko Dangote. Her hands went cold. Messages flooded her inbox. Old friends, former church members, even her former landlady. No one asked for the truth. They just assumed. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She went straight to Ikenna's cold room, the only place she still felt safe. He saw the look on her face before she said a word. She handed him the phone. He read it. His jaw tightened. "They want to destroy you because they can't understand your rise," he said calmly. "But this could cost me everything. My clients, my peace, my safety." He looked at her serious. "Then let's fight it. With the truth." She shook her head. "You don't understand, Ikenna. This is Nigeria. People don't wait for the truth." He reached for her hand. "I believe you, and I'll stand beside you. Even if the world doesn't." She blinked back tears. This time not out of pain, but gratitude, because in the middle of public shame, someone still saw her heart. The broadcast message refused to die. By Monday, it had moved from WhatsApp groups to Facebook pages. Even Instagram gossip blogs had picked it up with headlines like, "From struggling tailor to Dangote's mystery mistress." Photos from the gala, where Amarachi had smiled proudly in her self-made dress, were now used as mockery. "This is how they package themselves," one comment read. Single mothers always looking for sugar daddies, said another. The worst part? Some of her own clients pulled out. One text simply read, "My husband says I should find another tailor. Hope you understand." She sat in silence for a long time. Even her thread needle refused to stay in her hand. At her compound, people watched her like she was a scandal walking. Some nodded with fake sympathy. Others made sly jokes. Her son, Toby, didn't understand what was happening, but he could feel it. The coldness, the tension, the way kids in the compound no longer wanted to play with him. Amarachi reached a breaking point. That evening, she did something she had never done before. She recorded a short video. No makeup, no filter. Just her, seated on a plastic chair in her workroom. Her voice was calm but firm. "I am not a mistress. I'm not a sugar baby. I'm a single mother who prayed for help, and God sent someone. The man helped me, not with money in my hand, but with opportunities in my life. I won't apologize for being blessed without sleeping with anyone, and I won't be ashamed of my story." She ended the video with her name and quietly uploaded it to Facebook. It was barely 24 hours later. The video had gone viral. Hundreds of supportive women shared it. The comments were different now. "Thank you for speaking for all of us. This could have been me." Shame on those spreading lies. But the biggest shock came on Wednesday. A press conference was called by the Dangote Foundation. The spokesperson stood before cameras and journalists and said, "We want to address the harmful rumor involving Mr. Aliko Dangote and Miss Amarachi Peters. It is entirely false. Mr. Dangote has supported over 200 women through our silent empowerment scheme. Amarachi is not the first and will not be the last." He paused, then added, "It is heartbreaking that a woman's dignity is always the first thing, the key. Public attacks when she rises without explanation. The foundation will begin taking legal action against those spreading defamation." Amarachi watched the video on her phone with shaking hands. For the first time, the truth had backup. She wasn't just defending herself anymore. A giant had spoken. The messages changed again. Old clients called to apologize. Strangers sent encouragement. And deep in her heart, something bloomed again. Not just peace, but a new kind of strength. One that could never be taken from her again. 3 weeks after the press conference, Amarachi received a call from a woman named Mrs. Toon, a senior director at the Dangote Foundation. "We're setting up a women's innovation and skills hub in Abuja," the woman explained. "We want you to head the tailoring arm." Amarachi blinked, confused. "Me? Yes. You'll be training women, single mothers, widows, girls who dropped out of school, in sewing, fashion illustration, and starting a small business." Amarachi almost dropped the phone. She sat in silence, staring at the blank wall of her small shop. "You'll get a salary," the woman continued, "plus accommodation and a relocation allowance for you and your son." Amarachi didn't know whether to laugh or cry. When she ended the call, she knelt on the floor, lifted her hands, and whispered, "Thank you, God, thank you." She told Tobe that evening, and his excitement filled the entire room. "Does that mean I can get a new school bag?" he asked. She laughed. "You'll get two!" The next week was a blur of packing, goodbyes, and quiet reflection. Ikenna came by the night before she traveled. He handed her a new set of tailoring tools and said, "This is not goodbye. This is just the beginning of a new chapter." She smiled. But her heart tugged a little, because while she had no romantic feelings for Ikenna, his kindness had left a permanent mark. The hub was everything Amarachi didn't know she needed. It had clean classrooms, machines that worked, and women hungry to learn. She taught with all her heart, not just stitching but resilience. She started each session with a 5-minute pep talk. Even if you have only one wrapper and a baby on your back, you can build something with your hands. Her students adored her. They listened, asked questions, and brought their stories with them. A young widow who had lost everything, a teenage girl escaping an arranged marriage, a shy woman whose husband never let her speak. Amarachi poured herself into them, and slowly, she saw the same transformation in their eyes that once happened in hers. That flicker of hope returning. Outside work, she made new friends. Toby started school and was thriving, but Amarachi didn't get carried away. She knew what it felt like to be laughed at, to be doubted, to start with nothing but prayer. She remained rooted. She never posted pictures of herself with dignitaries or at foundation events. She let her work speak, because now she was no longer trying to prove anything. She simply was. A woman who had passed through fire and didn't smell like smoke. One evening, after her last class at the Skills Hub, Amarachi received an invitation for a private networking dinner. She almost declined. She wasn't one for late-night outings. But the message came from the Foundation's main email, and it mentioned a proposal that may interest you. Curious, she attended. The dinner was held in a quiet, exclusive cafe in Maitama. Amarachi arrived in a modest gown and flats, while others shimmered in gowns and heels. At her table sat 3 women, lawyers, business consultants, and one she recognized instantly, Mrs. Kenechukwu, an influential fashion entrepreneur known for her massive fashion retail chain across West Africa. They smiled. They made small talk. Then Mrs. Kenechukwu leaned forward and said, "Amarachi, I've heard your story. It's powerful, raw, and marketable." Amarachi blinked. "We want to buy the rights to your story," the woman continued, sliding a sealed envelope across the table. "Netflix, Prime will make a series out of it, but we'll control the narrative, clean it up, add drama, maybe even turn Dangote into a romantic angle." Amarachi froze. "It'll be inspirational, of course. You'll be paid handsomely, 8 figures. Your son will never lack again." Silence fell over the table. Amarachi looked down at the envelope, then back at the woman. Slowly she asked, "Will I still get to decide what is true and what isn't?" The woman chuckled. "Inspiration sells better than accuracy, dear." And in that moment, Amarachi realized this was not about truth. It was about control. They wanted to own her pain, rewrite her path, and sell it in a way that erased what made it real. She stood up, gently pushed the envelope back and smiled. "Thank you, but I've worked too hard for my name to hand it over for packaging." They stared, but she walked away with peace in her steps. That weekend, Amarachi took Toby out for their little ritual, mangoes under the tree beside their apartment. It was their favorite spot, quiet, breezy, real. She sat cross-legged, hand-stitching a purse for one of the women at the hub who was starting her own side hustle. Toby watched her. "Mummy, when I grow up, I want to help people too." She smiled. "You already are. Every time you smile at someone who feels sad, you help." He nodded and looked up at the branches. "Mummy, are you famous now?" She laughed softly. "Maybe, but I'd rather be useful than famous." And that was the truth. She didn't need red carpets or hashtags. Her reward was in every woman who now believed she could sew her way out of shame. In every class where a girl picked up scissors and felt powerful. In the quiet pride of knowing that her story belonged to her alone. Later that night, after Toby had fallen asleep, Amarachi sat by the window and wrote in her journal, "Dear God, thank you for the mistake that wasn't a mistake. That one wrong text opened doors no man could have planned. I will not waste it. I will not let the noise drown your purpose." She closed the book, blew out the candle, and whispered, "Amen." It had been exactly 1 year since Amarachi mistakenly texted Dangote. 12 months since a message meant for her church fellowship. Leader landed in the inbox of Africa's richest man, then turned her world around. That afternoon, she received an official invitation to Lagos. "You are one of the recipients of the 2026 Women Who Inspire Nigeria Award. Kindly accept our honor." It was surreal. She hadn't asked for it. She didn't campaign for recognition. Yet, her name had made it to a national list of women changing lives, alongside doctors, judges, social workers, and engineers. When she arrived at the Echo Convention Center, she wore a gown. She made herself sky blue lace, with small sunflowers embroidered at the edges, a tribute to hope and growth. As her name was called, she walked on stage and stood behind the podium. The hall grew quiet. Her speech was only 2 minutes long. "1 year ago, I was a single mother with debts, no help, and a prayer in my chest. A text meant for pain turned into a doorway of grace. I stand here not because I planned this, but because God used a mistake to make a miracle. I dedicate this to every woman who feels invisible. We see you, and soon the world will too. The hall erupted in applause. Somewhere in the front row, Mrs. Town from the foundation stood up and clapped with tears in her eyes. Amarachi bowed, then stepped off the stage, heart full, hands shaking. But the biggest surprise came later. That evening, after she'd returned to her apartment in Abuja and tucked Toby into bed, she noticed a sealed envelope slid under her door. There was no sender's name, only the golden seal of the Dangote Foundation. She opened it slowly, heart beating fast. Inside was a handwritten letter. Dear Amarachi Peters, it's been 1 year since you mistakenly sent me that text message. I've watched your journey from afar, your strength, your humility, your ability to transform trials into service. You remind me why I started the foundation in the first place. In honor of your courage, I've approved a permanent fund under your name, the Amarachi Peters Skills Fund, to train and support single mothers in Nigeria. You don't have to manage it. You don't need to do anything. Just continue being exactly who you are. Sometimes it takes one wrong number to reach the right destination. Remain grounded and never stop sowing hope into this world. Aliko Dangote. Her fingers trembled. The tears came quietly. She folded the letter, pressed it to her heart, and whispered, "Thank you." No camera, no applause. Just her God, and the fullness of a purpose she never expected, yet was born to live out. She walked to Toby's room, kissed his forehead, and returned to her sewing table. Outside, the Abuja night was silent. Inside, a single woman, once overlooked, now carried the weight of 1,000 stories. And she was ready. Because the miracle wasn't just the man who replied her text. The miracle was who she had become. The end.